Evening all, or very early morning. I think it's just gone midnight. Apologies, I couldn't bring this one to you earlier. I was catching up on social media from yesterday. So, for those who are wondering where my Facebook Live was yesterday, basically I fell asleep. Woke up at 3:30 in the morning, and I think that was not maybe the best time to do a Facebook Live. So I was just basically catching up on that. So apologies, this is later than usual. For those who've been watching me, this is not unusual for me to do Facebook Lives at this time. But I wanted to continue in the series. Evening Nana, thanks for joining. I wanted you to watch this one. I'm going to be sharing more of my story again. I hope you enjoyed the first video in this series I'm doing on just sharing more of my stuff, my personal life. And yeah, it was going to be a two-part series about relationships, but it's going to be a third part of a different another aspect that I want to share, which will be tomorrow. So part one was a couple of days ago about my relationship with my father. I was a bit apprehensive about doing it just because of the other family members involved in their own relationship with him. But I felt I did a good job, and the response so far has been positive, which has been great. This one I'm sharing tonight is about breakups, and this one's dedicated to one of my biggest supporters, yeah, put it that way, Kareem Hassan. He asked me ages and ages ago to do. I basically put it out there to people to give me subjects to speak about to help me refine or sharpen up my skills at this game, because I'm new to this. I say new to this, I'm nearly 3 months in, but still new to this. No training, no social public speaking training whatsoever, and I'll still continue with that message. If there's anything you want me to speak about, then please let me know, and I'll endeavour to do that. But fair play to Kareem, he's been patient on this one because he's been asking me this one for ages, and I've actually written down the questions, so I want him to know that I'm going to answer it by you sharing part of my story. It won't fully answer the question, but I hope it encapsulates most of what he's saying. So Karim basically said he wanted me to speak on split ups and how to deal with them if you didn't end a relationship, and maybe why the girl or boy who ended it doesn't want to be friends even after time has passed. So I've titled this one Breakups, and I'm going to be talking about the relationship, or the last main relationship I had before the relationship with my wife. And this relationship lasted about 2.5 years, but it felt like double the time because just it was so intense and so much happened in that time. And in that time there were a few breakups, but the final breakup at the end, basically the relationship impacted me significantly. And obviously looking back is different. I can look back on things not clinically, but like in black and white, as in it happened and a lot of the emotion is gone. But at the time, yeah, just raw emotions, very different emotions. So I'm going to talk about breakups. The breakup I had with my first proper relationship. And again, because there's another person involved, there's two sides to every story, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be going into deep detail, just out of respect for that person. I'm sharing this message publicly because I want people to take value from that, but not everyone feels the need to share their story publicly, and I respect that. So, like I say, out of respect, this is my side of the story. You'll get an overview as such, some detail, but not every chapter and verse, just out of respect for that person. Funny enough, actually, it was her birthday today, or just gone, whatever time you're watching this. It was quite ironic in a way, or just coincidence, whatever you want to think about it. Right, so yes, this girl I met, I can't remember when, it was around 1999, 2000, and I was still very shy at that time, very unsure of myself. But I was actually doing a business, network marketing business at the time called Amway. I just signed up because before I was 18. And hopefully network marketing was about sharing the business, the opportunity with people, for them to become involved as business owners or become involved as customers. And for a shy person, having to speak to people was like two completely opposites of the polar. And I really had to come up my comfort zone for that, and I felt uncomfortable doing it and all the rest of it. But basically, this girl I met, she was living on my no, she at the time she was living with a family friend temporarily on my estate, and at that time I was going to from work, um, and then doing the network marketing as well, so working all hours, and I was coming home in the estate, and I noticed her, and she caught my eye. She was attractive, and I thought, what am I gonna say to this girl? How am I gonna talk to her? Because I didn't have that confidence in myself. So I thought, okay, I will speak to her from using introduce talking about the network marketing business. So that's how that's how I first spoke to her. I can't remember exactly what I said. I think I tried to pitch the business opportunity to her, or talk about makeup or something, because that's one of the products they were offering. Um, so yeah, she was attractive. She was quite tall, and I'm tall. So to meet a girl who's quite tall, is unusual for me. And yeah, I spoke to her, and that was that. And then I can't remember, it's a blur, but we got to know each other. She was staying with a family friend, and then yeah, we got to know her. She was just dealing with a breakup of a previous relationship, which had a massive impact on her family. She became estranged from her family, hence why she was living with a family friend. Her family wasn't from London. She moved to London to be with this person. Didn't work out. So there was a lot of, as I came into it, she was dealing with all the emotion from that. Um, so I used to spend time with her at her family's friend's house. He happened to be a massive Elvis fan, so he used to serenade us with impromptu Elvis songs, which was a bit surreal. I knew him before I met the girl, but I didn't know the relationship with them and the family friend. So that was that, and obviously new relationship. That buzz was there. I met this girl, and like I said, being a shy person, it was like she was attractive, and yeah, things were good. Life was good, but she was dealing with all this emotional baggage of the breakup from her relationship and the impact that it had on her family. So she was going through a tough time emotionally and financially, and basically a situation occurred where she couldn't live with this person anymore, and she would have to, in terms of money, financially, she would have to move back to her family, and she really didn't want to do that, but she did temporarily. But she was always planning to come back, and I was obviously, for me, I just met this girl, and then all of a sudden she gone. She had to move back down south. So I visited her where I can, but it was mostly telephone and her coming up. So dealing with that long distance relationship, and obviously I wanted to see more of her, so I was doing what I could to help her come back to London. And basically she did, and at the time I was supporting her financially. Um, Bearing in mind my salary wasn't enough to support the mortgage I had on my mum's place at the time and support private rental in London for my girlfriend. So it was only, and with that, basically she was what I call undiagnosed depressed, clinically depressed, whatever you want to call it, undiagnosed. So if anyone has dealt with or been around or helped or cared for someone who's got depression, it's a tough gig. It's a tough gig, and it does, if you're not very careful to protect or surround yourself with people who are not depressed, it can wear you down. At that time, I was a very positive person. I was looking to do business, always open to new ideas, entrepreneurial, whatever you want to call it at the time, and being with this girl who was a very bubbly person, and she helped me to come out myself a lot more. They say opposites attract. It's the same with my wife now. She's quite um, social, what have you, and me, I've changed from where I was, um, but being around this girl helped me bring him out. So she was fun and all the rest of it. But she had these long-standing family issues and emotional stuff that she carried with her, and I just felt like that was all unpacked on me, and it wasn't the case. I was in a situation where I felt I couldn't step away. I didn't want to step away. I didn't want to step away. Maybe I took on too much. Definitely financially, I took on too much. Emotionally, you could argue that because I'm fine now, but there were scars left. But I was caring for her financially, trying to care for her emotionally as well, and it was tough. It was tough quite very early on in our relationship. It was very very tough, and I got into financial difficulties. I did some things that I'm not proud of in order to keep the money coming in, um, and yeah, it was tough. It got to a situation where I felt that her family needed to know what was going on, and I went against her wishes and contacted the family um, to let them know what the situation was, and I was dealing with all of that, and I've always been mature for my age. I've always been older than my years, but yeah, having to deal with all that, she didn't want any help in terms of seeing a doctor and what have you, and yeah, the highs were high and the lows were really really low, and that's why I said at the beginning it was 2.5 years. It felt like double the time. It was very very intense um, relationship, and there would be times where I'd give her the money to go away just for a few days just to clear her head, and I don't know where she went. Just to clear her head, we had to move our house several times, problem with landlords, problem with the state of the flat, so dealing with all of that as well. And then I managed to obtain a really 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 good job, earning good money, and basically I blew it because I wasn't there all the time because having to deal with her. There's 2 or 3 jobs that I lost, and at one point I was working 3 jobs a week, 7 days a week, and after 6 months I got burnt out, just trying to support her, and what have you. Other things happened which I'm not going to go into tonight, but big emotional scars were left from those events, and yeah, there were a couple of occasions that we broke up, um, and the first occasion that well, the first real occasion I can remember breaking up, um, her way of dealing with it, and I can't remember all the events clearly, but the one thing that sticks out is she would go out and party and try and forget about it, and I was upset, and I was trying to reach out to her. I was speaking to her, I was calling her, and she was in the car, music playing with another guy, and that's just tore me to pieces. Um, and time passed, and we did get back together, but she had been with other people, and for me, I needed to know the details. I needed to know. She told me all the details, and that just cut me to the core. But I needed to know everything so we could be upfront with each other and blah blah blah, and that cut me to the core. And we got together, and I remember towards the end of the relationship, there was an occasion we went out in the West End. Something happened. We got in an argument, and I just thought, you know what, I can't deal with this no more. I'm out. I can't deal with this no more. And I just thought, you know what, I'm leaving this. I'm going. I'm leaving. And went to go back home, and I can't remember all the details, but she caught up with me, and we started shouting on the street, and then she basically ran into traffic and nearly got run over. On top of that, some things happened to her where the police had to get involved, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy. But I loved her, and I knew she was a good person. That's the kind of person that I am. Call it, I don't know, knight in shining armor or whatever. I wanted to help her. I wanted to help her. I wanted to help her. Things that happened to her weren't her fault. She put a trust in people, and the people that abused that trust. And I wanted to help her get her back on her feet. And she has so much potential in her, and I wanted to spend my life with her. So yeah, that all happened, and then basically it came to a head where I think I can remember coming home one night to her place, and I think she was watching TV, I was watching TV, and I don't think we had any words to say to each other. And I think I sense that we both sensed that this relationship had kind of reached its distance. We were both so drained, um, physically and emotionally. Kind of like I just got that sense that the relationship had run its course. I think it was a mutual breakup. I can't remember. I think it was. There were times where she broke up with me, blah blah, this and that and that, and that hurt. And to answer kind of try and answer Kareem's question, reaching out to people when you want to be with someone and they don't want to be with you, it hurts. It really pains, and you feel like your life is with that person. You want to be with that person so badly, and you've experienced what it's like to be with them, and then not to have that in your life, it really hurts. And I'll try, if I can remember, to keep some sort of structure, just cover that at the end, kind of maybe how you deal with that. One of the things is you've got to really love yourself before loving others. Not to say if you don't love yourself you can't be in relationships, because plenty of people have. I've been in a relationship where I haven't loved myself fully. I think if you love yourself and value yourself, then when breakups happen, and I can't talk for every situation, sometimes the relationship is just not meant to be. And I think the key thing with breakups when it's not used is the feeling of rejection. And my part 3 video tomorrow is going to be talking about rejection and one specific incident in my life which really encapsulates rejection. You feel rejected. No one wants to be rejected. I'm a person, especially with my shyness, I want to be liked. I want to be liked by everyone. That's not possible, but it's in my nature. I like helping people. I want to be liked, so I try. I'm quite an affable person, trying to get on with everyone and things like that. So I want to be. Hey John, how you doing, sir? Nice to see you on here. I want to be. I want to be liked, and with my shyness and my not loving myself and not knowing myself, and she accepted me, being quiet and all of that, and she loved me, and I wanted to hold on to that. So when the breakup came, it was hard. That first one, the second major one, where kind of sense we both felt the relationship run its course. It kind of like I loved her still, but I just felt that so much had happened. Brother Utam, thanks for joining, sir. Just sharing more of my personal story. A lot of the lives I've done have been about generic subjects, things I've put about. The last couple of videos is sharing more of myself upon request, and hopefully people can take value or lessons out of it. So when my girlfriend at the time finally broke up, we kind of both sensed that that was the end of the relationship. But moving the story forward, it's kind of like a week later, there was a flatmate who was a mutual friend to us. He had split up from his wife and blah blah blah. And I think literally within a week or 2 weeks, she had got together with this guy, and literally was one of these multiple rooms in a house. So he lived in one room, she lived in the other, which and literally within 2 weeks she got together with this guy. So I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Obviously something was, but she got together with this guy, and I had to move my stuff out of there. I moved in with my grandparents, and I remember going into his room, and seeing her clothes and stuff like that, and just seeing that, again, it was tough. It was tough, and moving my stuff out of there, it was a real tough period of my life. I talked earlier about the financial difficulties I got into. So although I never got any county court judgments, I defaulted on a number of loans and credit cards, which had financial implications. And for those who know some of my views on education and about practical life skills, I learned the hard way. So I learned, for example, that a default stays on your credit report, I think it's for 6 or 7 years, and that leaves like a marker on your credit report. When you've got multiple defaults, it affects your credit rating. But after you've settled, and after, like I said, you've settled 6 or 7 years, they come off your credit file report. I learned that the hard way by going through that experience. This is the kind of stuff that I believe needs to be taught to our youngsters, to those who don't know about these things. There are charities out there. There are businesses out there who make money from um, consolidating all your loans, your unsecured debt into one um, payment. There are commercial organisations who do that. I signed up with one, and they weren't very successful because the thing is, the creditors, the banks, and that don't have to accept the proposal. So basically, what I did, for example, I pay £100 a month to my creditors. This business would take, I don't know, £10 off that. They'll take that cut. But upon reading that, what's the word? Respected newspaper, The Sun. Give props to The Sun. Who was for this? I don't know where I'll be. They ran a feature on a charity, a government charity, and I think they've changed the name since then. But at the time, it was called CCCS, Consumer Credit Counselling Services, and they did exactly what this business did, but they were a charity, so they wouldn't take any cut. And because they were a charity and they were a government charity, a lot of my creditors were used to dealing with them, and had a respect, had a name. So basically, from reading an article, Evening James, how you doing, sir? Thanks for tuning in. Through contacting the CCCS, they sent me a debt management plan, my income expenditure, because that's another thing, that's another education point. Creditors, you need to have money for deep scars. James chapter 1 verse 5. I'll read that in my Bible reading tomorrow, John. Yeah, you need, if I earn, I don't know, £100 a month, and I've got all these creditors to pay, I need a certain amount of money to live on. I need to eat, I need to feed myself, I need to drink myself, I need to be able to get to work, blah, blah, blah. So I need to keep some of that money. And they helped me to say how much I need to live on, and then how much I had left would pay the creditors in a certain proportion. So they educated me in order to pay off these creditors. And although I hated owing them money, it was a situation at the time. And I'm glad to say, and there's ways nowadays you can go to breakups, so you can take out IVAs and write off debt and what have you. But what these creditors did was just froze the amount that I owed. They weren't added any more interest, but I paid it all off. And it was important for me. I wasn't looking to them write off debt. I owed the money. I wanted to pay them off. They helped me to do that, have some money to live on. And as I earned a bit more, or one debt was paid off, I could increase the amount. But they were such a better consumer counselling services. Anyone who's going through similar financial difficulties, these charities are out there. As a Christian, there's a great one that I donate to. He says that, and I can't remember. It'll come to me. It's a green logo. Can't remember. It'll come to me at some point. But there are government charities out there. You don't have to go through the businesses, the companies who are doing this to make money. There are plenty of government charities out there that will help you to do this. There is help out there. There's so much help in this country, but often if you don't know what you don't know. Thank you, James, for that message. Thank you. You don't have to go through it alone. Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know the help is out there, then you don't know you can have access to it. So there is help out there in terms of financial difficulties that you are having. Don't bury your head in the sand. The problem won't go away. Go for it. These guys are experienced. They know what they're doing. They've done it before, and they can do it again. So yeah, I learned the hard way, and now I'm glad to say my credit is fine. Everything is back, but there was a period of 67 years, probably a bit longer, that it wasn't, and it affected my ability to take out any kind of financial arrangements. So yeah, the breakup was tough. So yeah, going back to that breakup, she got together with another guy we both knew. That was raw. Like I said, I'm a friendly person. I like to get on with everyone, so I liked her. I loved her, but I liked her as well. And I always try to keep relationships on a good level. I've messed up, but part of me, when we broke up and going through all that, is I started going out with one of my best friends at the time. He was living out of London. We started going out again. We started going out clubbing. Um, I was just enjoying that freedom as such. If you want to take the positive out of a breakup, it sometimes gives you freedom to be by yourself, find out more about who you are, that single life or what have you. And there was a really good girl who I got together with, but I cheated on her. I was enjoying. It's not an excuse. I'm not excusing myself, but me being shy and then starting to get all this attention from girls, I was lapping it all up. So I was having my cake and eating it, and uh, I was being selfish. I was being selfish. Um, it was not right at all. But I was being selfish, and that's what I did. I'm not proud of it, but that's what I did in this situation. But at that time, I was still maintaining communication with this girl, and she was telling me all about how great this guy was, and that having no respect or regard for maybe how it made me feel, because I'm quite friendly, because I get along, what have you. Maybe she just thought, oh, that's fine, he's moved on. But she was telling me, oh, we're going to get married. This is like within 6 months, we're going to get married. You're going to come to the wedding, blah, 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 this, blah, blah, blah. I thought, have you got no, do you know what I mean, inclination? We've just broken up. We've been together like 2.5, 3 years. We've gone through all this stuff. You got together with this next person, and you started telling me you're going to get married and I can come to the wedding. And I was just like, do you know what I mean? It just wasn't, yeah, you get what I'm saying. So anyway, had all this going on, and in the back of my mind, I had the idea. Well, sometimes you don't realize what you've got until it's gone, and I think maybe you don't realize how good I was or what have you. Maybe you will realize, maybe you won't. But I always had that in the back of my head, and just kind of part of thought, because I'll come back to it. But anyway, after I'd done all this mucking around, or whatever, I met someone else who's now my wife. There's a story behind that, but I'm not going to share that now. And so I got together with her, started seeing her, stopped all the mucking around, blah blah blah. And but this other girl who I used to be with was still in my life in terms of communications and stuff. And my wife now, I told her obviously what had happened, and in those early days she saw her as a threat because she knew the deepness of the relationship. Um, so we had, quite early on, we had a big argument, because I arranged to meet up with my ex-girlfriend, just to meet up and catch up, whatever. It caused an issue with my wife now, and I was of the opinion, being selfish again, like, I'm gonna go see her. We're not together anymore. What's the problem? What's the problem? So I went and saw her. We went to a boat party, I think, and basically she was beating around the bush, but basically she wanted me back, and she came around to say it. And that, in the one instance, the initial reaction was, yes, I told you so. That thought, I said a part to the back of my mind about her wanting me back. It's kind of like confirmation that she knew she missed me or whatever. So I was like, yes. But at the same time, I had a real dilemma of whether I should get back to her, go back to her. My heart was telling me yes. Obviously, I was with this girl who's now my wife, so that tells you how fantastic I think she is, my wife. And very early on, we just gelled and just got on, and I knew that it was going to be a significant relationship in my life. But it's still quite early on, and obviously I've been with this girl longer than I've been with my wife at the time. And all that we went through, and I wanted to be with her, so my heart was telling me yes, but my head was telling me no. My head was telling me no. My head was telling me no because of everything we went through, and so for me to get back with her, what would happen? How would it work out? Were we right for each other? And I think fundamentally we weren't. I don't think we were. And the relationship had served its time. It served its call. Um, yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's hard thinking about it now, but at the time I had a real dilemma. I had a choice to make, whether I go back to her or move forward. And sometimes going back is not always a good thing to do. I've had jobs when I've gone back to the job, But it's always, in my experience, going back to something it's always different in my experience. I mean, me and my wife, we split up for a while, for about 6 months. We got back together, and now we're married and what have you. So it's not always, but um, yeah, going back. Sometimes you can't just pick up where you left off. And obviously, with me and her, she had a relationship with this guy. She had a baby with this guy. That's the other thing. Sorry, I just remember just to throw that into the mix. She had a baby with this guy as well. So I had that to think about as well. Um, and it's not to say something I would have dealt with, because one of my children is my stepdaughter. So it's not to say I wasn't willing to step in a role of stepfather, but I had that to think about as well. And thinking logically about it. Yeah, James is saying deep tonight, brother. It is a deep one tonight. It is a deep one. I hope people take something from this. I'm just talking straight as I see it. So people using this reason why I started these Facebook lives, using my struggles, my challenges, to help others. And that's why I'm doing it. Like I said, this is not for everyone. So out of respect for this lady, I'm not going to go to chapter and verse. I've already gone into some chapter and verse. But yeah, so I had a decision, and it was a decision I toyed about with. My heartstrings were saying, yeah, I still love her. I want to go back to her. There's still, not necessarily love her, still feelings there towards her. She actually wants me back. Would it be different? But logically, it's telling me we've been through so much. And they just got to I think the decision was made that not to go back there. And I think it would have been the right decision to go back, because ultimately it wasn't, because now I'm married. I'm very, very happily married. I've got 3 beautiful children and all the rest of it. So I decided not to. Yeah, I decided not to go back. So I told her that, and we kept contact, but it caused issues with my wife. So actually, made a decision that I needed to stop that relationship in terms of friendship. I needed to stop it altogether. Cutting a long story short, my wife and I broke up X amount of years later, before we were married, and I rekindled the relationship with my ex-girlfriend, friendship based. And I was glad to say that she had moved on, in terms of she was in a far more better place emotionally, and for me, it kind of justified spending all that money, getting into that debt, all that emotional input I put into it. If she had gone further down or was in a worse position, I would have felt like, was it worth it? Everything I'd done, the implications it had on my financial credit, standing and everything. But the fact that she's fine and blah blah blah, that she was getting on with life, kind of, for me, gave means. It justified the means to an end. So I'm happy. Out of all that badness, good came out of it. So I rekindled that friendship with her, my wife, fiance, whatever, girlfriend at the time before. Sorry, I'm getting confused. And just say my wife and we got back together, and yeah, I had to end that relationship with my ex girlfriend, just because it was just causing too many issues. So I wrote a letter to her, and I think it was after I proposed to my wife. We decided to get married, and I said, look, I can't remember the letter, but obviously she had a massive impact on my life. I'm so happy that she's where she is at in life, but I can't continue the friendship as such. And that was it. And that was it. And like I say, ironically, it's her birthday today, or was yesterday, whenever you're watching this. And I've no idea what she's doing now. I don't know where she is. Actually, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, met with her, saw her about a month or two ago, and I think my mum's seen her in the years since. So randomly, I get little things, but other than that, it's done. That relationship has run its course. I'd like to stay in contact with her, but it's just not. It's just not. Some relationships last for a season. You got school friends. Some people say school friends are at lives. Some people don't. Some relationships are for seasons. Some relationships people come and go in your life. Some people can have an impact in literally spending half an hour with them. Some people it's over a lifetime. Um, yeah, and I think that relationship, friendship, has obviously it's run its course. So that's the story of the breakup, the major breakup I had in my life, and to go back to Kareem's kind of question, um, I hope I've answered a lot of the questions through me talking about the situation. But what did he say? He said maybe why the girl or boy who ended it doesn't want to be friends even after. So they don't want to be friends even time. I think to answer that is friendships and like a formal relationship, being a partner, are two different things. And I think you hear people saying, "Oh, my wife is my best friend," which is, yeah, it's just true to a degree. But when you become emotionally involved with each other, it's different. And in the Bible, it talks about when you have when you get intimate with someone else, there is a bond there, an emotional bond that is not designed to be broken, which is why God designed it to be wrapped around in marriage. Whereas nowadays we have people doing stuff out of wedlock and what have you, and people think that there's no emotional attachment. There is deep down, which is why God designed it in the way that He did. And that's with relationships. And when you get into a relationship, it's just a different. It's on another level. So when you come out of that, although one party might want to be friends, and I'm talking very generally, it depends on the reason the relationship ended. There's so many different variables to it. But from where I'm coming from, that person might not want to be your friend just because they can't, because often it's friendship first, then relationship next. They can't go back to that because of what's happened. For me, when that opportunity came up to get back with my girlfriend, it was ex-girlfriend. It was her coming to me and saying she wanted to, she didn't realize what she had, or blah blah blah. She misses me, blah blah blah. For me, I couldn't go back, and I think to answer Kareem's that point, maybe it's a case of they feeling like they're going back, and I think if you go back to friendship, I think there's always that thought: will we get back together? Will we get back together? So I think once you've gone from friendship to relationship, and then going back to friendship, it's not the same, because that thing in the middle of the relationship is where the real emotion is involved. So I hope that kind of answers your point on that, Kareem. And I think that was, yeah, even after time's passed, yeah. It depends, Kareem, how much time has passed. Is it 1 week? Is it 1 month? Yeah, and time is a great healer. Time, the way I talk about this situation now is very, very different to 10, 15 years ago. And the consistent thing in that is that time has passed. As of all things, with a bereavement, with any kind of major incident happens in your time changes things. The emotion is not so raw. Obviously, what you're doing in your life has changed as well. So it depends. When you say having being friends with that person even after time's passed, it depends how much time has passed. It depends how much they invested in that relationship. So many different things. It could be 10, 20 years. It just and everyone reacts differently. There's books or whatever, but there's no kind of manual to how you deal with it. We all have different personalities. We all deal with things in different ways. So yeah, just this. I think the key answer for me of that is just like I said, you go often from friendship to relationship. To go back to friendship is always that question: is it gonna Are we going to get back together? What does that friendship look like? Because you've been in that relationship. It's kind of like a contract. The contract to change. Marriage is a contract, and when you end that contract through divorce, how does that relationship changes? Um, so yeah, I think I think that's what I've got to say in that, Karim. So I hope Karim, I'm talking to Karim in particular because he asked me to do this live. I hope that answers your question mainly through my experience, and I think that's the key thing for me. This Facebook Lives is using my experiences, my struggles, um, my highs and my lows, and other people can learn and take from their what. From the what. Yes, I do Facebook Lives on other general things, time management. How can we stand up from the crowd? Blah blah blah. Things that are on my heart, and I feel I can add value. But the main thing I wanted to do with my Facebook Lives is predominantly through my shyness, experience of my shyness, is to help other people. One, to help them and inspire them, to help them to see it as someone else who's further down the journey, who's gone through what they've been through, or was experiencing themselves, feeling, to kind of see the other side of the coin, and to hopefully inspire them to say, well, maybe I can do Facebook Lives, or maybe I can do something which is totally opposite of shyness. So I hope, Karim, I hope those took a long time in coming. I hope it's been of value to you. It was always going to be quite a long one because I talk about my life and something that significantly impacted my life. This is part 2. The series part 3 will be, and I've only decided to do a part 3. I think yesterday will be on rejection, which is linked to breakups. Breakups, obviously, more often than not, it tends to be one person doing the breaking up to the other. Rarely you hear about mutual breakups. So one person is breaking up, the other one is being rejected as such. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with being rejected? I've kind of touched on that in this Facebook Live, but I'm going to talk about a very specific incident in my life tomorrow, which will help cover the subject of rejection. And thank you, James. James says pure value. Thank you. And this is the kind of thing I learned. I always ask myself, why did I struggle? Why did I go through this? Blah blah blah. But being a Christian, I think God, life is not plain sailing. We're not robots. We have emotions. Things will happen. Troubles will happen. Good times, high times, low times, births, deaths, all the rest of it. So instead of asking yourself, why am I going through this? Blah blah blah. Look, David Tang says that he's a public speaker. He says it. I think you just encapsulate. Your pain is your power, and I take that from, you can use your pain. Your greatest weakness can be your greatest strength. So what I define as my greatest weakness was shyness. And if I do that around of more formal public speaking, what have you, which is the second most feared thing in the world, and the first thing is death. That weakness I had of shyness, to turn it into, to go down the journey in between from shyness to public speaking, is my strength. That's the power in my message. That's the power. If I was always confident, if I was always from day dot, growing up as a baby, public speaking when I was in my nappies or blah blah blah, if I always do that, there's far less impact or message in there, as in from going from sharing my story. It's like faith. It's like Christian. People have a view of Christians. Some people have a view of Christians that we've got it all sorted and what have you. They don't understand the story behind that. So some of the most powerful ways to bring someone to faith is sharing. They call it your testimony, but sharing your story, because it's real life. People can identify with it. It's not all in a book that was written thousands of years ago that people can't relate to. It's like real life people. So yeah, your pain is your power. So using my struggles to help others. I remember where I was going with this. So instead of thinking why stuff happening to you, think about how you can use what the struggles you've gone through. First and foremost, you've got to get past those struggles. And secondly, use what you've your struggles to help others, so they don't have to go through that. You often hear about people. I think Sarah Payne just brings to my mind the death, tragic death, and the foundation was set up so that charity was set up so that people don't have to go through the same thing. What's the other one? The McCanns, Maddie. The child is still missing, but they are using their struggles to help others, and I believe that's what it's about. Using your pain, your struggles to help others. One, who identify with what you're going through, and two, so they don't have to go through some of the same stuff as you did. Often as parents, we tell our children not to do this and not to do that because we don't want them to experience or make the mistakes that we have made. But sometimes people have to make mistakes. Again, we're not robots. People have to make mistakes. Otherwise, you don't learn. Sometimes you learn more from your experiences than people telling you, don't do this, don't do that. So I'm in a position now with my stepdaughter, she's 16 now. I've got to let her make mistakes more so than ever. I want to protect her from all the bad things in this world, all that. But I have to let her make, and especially for her, the way her personality is, she learns more from that. I have to let her stand on her own 2 feet, as the saying goes to some point. But it's getting the balance and getting the fine line, in that. She needs to make mistakes, either with me and my faith and her faith. She comes to church with us. She's very much involved in church and with us, but it has to be her faith. We're not. Again, people might have this perception that we're forcing to children to be Christians. Not at all. My wife and I are Christians, so we bring up our children as Christians. But there will come at some point where they have to own their faith for themselves, and I want all of them to start asking questions when the time is right of their faith, because then it becomes more real for them. It's not just something that was ingrained from them from their mum and their dad. If it means them they come away from their faith and come back as I did, then for me, it's my faith now. It's not the faith that my mum forced me to go to church. It's my faith. I own it. But I had to come away from that to realise what I had. So it's the same for us. Sometimes we have to experience things for ourselves. Even if your mum and dad have told you, don't do that, it's like, I don't know, put your hand on something hot. You do it, you feel the emotion, you feel the pain, and then you don't do it again. So sometimes as humans we need to experience things for ourselves. So the main reason I'm doing this stuff is just to help people and inspire people around the struggles I've been through, and turning those struggles into my gain. Someone said, I can't remember, I listened to it on a podcast, even superheroes have a weakness. Superman has kryptonite. I can't remember any of the others. So we all have weaknesses. And it's about what we can do with those weaknesses and focusing on our strengths as well. So you asked how you do everything. I watch it every time. Okay, James is just saying. I asked James how. James is starting up his own online SEO, digital media business, and he's reached out to me to help me for some stuff I'm doing around my public speaking, to help me with my message, and asked I could help him, and he's basically said, you asked how I could help, Mel, you do everything, I watch you every time. So this is what it's about. It's not about me saying put myself in life. Things with the shy man, and that's just me being creative, having a bit of fun, a bit of a tagline, but yeah. And again, with the shy man, is to remind myself, because the other thing, you can move on from stuff, and then you can get arrogant, and you can get that fine balance between arrogance and staying humble. So I have moved on. I won't consider myself as shy as I'm more introverted. Yes, shy, no. But the reason I call myself a shy man is to remind myself, every time it's there, to remind myself of where I've come from, and not to get too complacent, to get too arrogant with it. So that's the reason with the shy man, the seeds of wisdom It's just like sharing knowledge. It's biblically based as well. There's a parable of the sower, which I'll show you another time. Um, it's just, yeah, I'm just having a bit of fun with it. The way I see it at the moment, public speaking is my hobby, and how many people can say that as a hobby? It invites discussion or intrigue, which is good. So for me at the moment, it's my hobby. Where it will lead up, I don't know. But yeah, Karim, I hope this fully answers your question. It's taken me a while, but like I say, I hope it's provide value. All those who've joined, thank you so much for joining. For those who are watching later, via YouTube, via Twitter perhaps, or just via Facebook, likes, comments, feedback, it's all appreciated. It's all appreciated. I'm giving up my time, but it's definitely a worthwhile thing I'm doing. I'm reaching close to 50 videos. I'll do a special 50th video. I think I'll probably be into next week now. But yeah, that charity I was talking about earlier has come to me. I was talking about debt management charities. So the main one, the one I went through was Consumer Credit Counselling Services. I'm pretty sure they're not called that anymore, but it's a government-based charity. If you Google it, I think it's called Debtline now, I think, but Google it. The other one is called Christians Against Poverty, and it's basically Christians fighting against poverty, but they do the same thing as Consumer Credit Counselling Service, the provider debt management charity, and I support them financially and in prayer as well, and something definitely. I know the value of it, which is why I'm so behind these charities. It changed my life. It got me out of a real hole financially. It changed my life. Yeah, for those people who are going, if you know anyone who's going through that, tell them to Google those two companies. They've been through this. They know what they're doing. They can help you as that intermediary between yourself and your creditors, the people who you owe money to, and these banks or whoever you owe money to. They're more than willing to deal with these companies because they have a relationship with them. And at the end of the day, they get the money back more often than not. There are other avenues, but more often than not, they get their money back. So checking them out. Consumer Credit Counselling Services, I think they're known as Debtline, National Debtline, and Christians Against Poverty. And I know there's other charities. My advice, you don't need to go down the ones who are run their business providing the service, in my opinion. When there's charities who will do the same thing for you and not charge you for it. So that's it. Nana, again, you asked me in your live 2 days ago, your awesome memory. I've got more of my story to share. This is part 2 of more of my story. Hoping that's responded to that point. Part 3 on relationships coming tomorrow, dealing with rejection. Thank you all. I get as much from this as hopefully I have given to you. If I do nothing else with my life, if my life ends tonight, this is definitely something I can say I actually did something significant with my life. Being a father is significant, being a husband is significant, but I've been yearning, I've been searching for something to do aside from the 9 to 5 employee model for years, and this is something I've actually found. I'm enjoying it, I'm adding value, and it's something that I can say. It's leaving a legacy as well. These videos are recorded, my children can watch this, people can watch this years down the line. I don't realise maybe the impact this could have years down the line, and I'm proud of myself to say I've done that. There's more that I want to do, but give thanks for where you are in life. So I give God the thanks, the glory, and I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll see you tomorrow. Over and out.